right now, and over the last couple of years, it's increased in the amount of negativity, not mental health awareness. There's definitely been more of that, but mental health issues, people really struggling.
Yeah, no, I guess it's gotten worse because here's the thing. The people in power, and mostly it's the money people, corporate, big pharma.
People north of...
They want divisiveness, right?
The rich men north of Richmond.
Yeah, they want divisiveness because when they have divisiveness, there's more opportunity for them to provide solutions that can make money off of, like drugs, right? And different government programs, what have you. But what happens is people in power, prison systems, which aren't rehabilitative. They're more punitive.
Oh, God.
Right?
I worked there for a year. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you have that, like you need to cause divisiveness and you need mental health problems. You need people to be low emotionally because they're going to be in more destructive mode versus constructive mode. And if we could get everybody in the society up here vibrating at a high vibration, you wouldn't need government as much. You wouldn't need jail systems. You wouldn't need drugs. You wouldn't need therapists and psychiatrists and all that. You wouldn't need it. And there's a way to do that. If you get about 20 to 25% of the population vibrating at a higher vibration, it'll spread. But you can't do that right now because it's not wanted. So lately it has been worse.
For the person that hears you say vibration and they're like, that's just a setting.
Some of the women get excited when I say that.
I was going to say it's a setting for my cell phone.
What you're going in that direction.
Wait, you can take that whatever, but a lot of people may hear that and be like, I don't know, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean by vibration?
Yeah, so everything's energy. Yeah. Okay, this isn't woo-woo stuff anymore. I study quantum physics, quantum resonance. Everything is energy and things are on a vibration. Right? And vibration or wavelength determines whether it's good or bad, right? Good is something that's going to take something and build upon it and be creative and constructive, and bad is destructive, right? So when you talk about vibration, you're talking about frequency, and frequency is the length of time between wavelength, right? And the quicker a wave comes, that's a higher frequency, and that's going to be more constructive, more happy, more excitement, exhilaration. And when you're talking about lower, it's lower wavelengths or longer wavelengths.
Yeah, slower,
heavier. And so when I talk about, I forget what the question was exactly, but when I talk about vibration is something that's vibrating fast. That's a higher frequency, right? And that's good.
I agree. I've looked into all this, and it still sounds really woo-woo though to anybody who's not dove into it. I feel there's a lot of people.
Well, because they're programmed, bro. Like, people are programmed not to believe the things that work.
That's fair.
There's secrets, right? The Secret. The movie was even called The Secret, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Secret. They don't. The people in power that need divisiveness and need people to be held down do not want you to know that. I practice it. Listen. So
how do you practice it?
Well, first of all, I believe in God, and I pray, and I think God's given us these abilities. And that's why God is targeted so often, and the people that believe in God are so targeted so often is because they don't want you to understand the power that we've been given as human beings. All right, it's not woo-woo stuff. Science is starting to back this up. Quantum physics actually aligns with spirituality. Okay, and when these two come together and people start to realize this, the people in power start to panic. Drug companies start to panic. That's why they hamper this down. That's why they create this era of merchants of chaos. They need chaos to survive. People in power. So, at the end of the day, what I do is I wake up in the morning. I pray. First thing I say when I wake up, open my eyes is thank you. I got another day, right? We don't know how many days we have, right? Yeah. Thank you. Another day to make a difference and make an impact. And then I pray for things that I want in my life. After gratitude, I pray for what I want. And then when I do that, I also go really through the emotions that I'm going to feel when I get those outcomes, right? Because it's not really the outcomes we want. It's the feeling that we want from those outcomes.
Absolutely.
So we can feel that now. Might as well feel it now. And then what that does to your body and your physiology is you actually start to feel like you already have what you were wanting. And then it just comes to you. Because we don't get what we desire and what we want, what we're chasing. If we chase something, it runs from us. Mm-hmm. We get what we start to feel like. And so I realized this from studying these things. And so I start to do it. And all of a sudden, like I can't tell you how many times this happens when I'm really dialed in. I'm not always dialed in with it because life starts to pull you away from it. But if I'm always dialed in as much as possible, money starts just flowing. And I'm like, where does this come from? Like, I don't even feel like I did the work for it, honestly. And when I feel like, contrast to that, when I'm working hard and busting my ass, it feels like the money's like so hard to get. So I believe in it. I'll practice it. If people don't believe in it, that's not my problem. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to get ahead of you. If you want to think woo woo and all this, I will get ahead of you.
And there's a lot of people that came up in households where it was either a specific religion that demonized that, or parents just don't care about spiritual teaching or anything like that. And you got to figure it out. Another thing that's come up in the last few years is just a lot more people, I think, are looking deeper into spirituality and finding what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That we're all connected. Mm-hmm. It's all energy. You have direct control over, I've just read a book, or Audible the book.
I just listened to a book.
I'll listen to a book.
So many people say, I've read all these books. Like, did you really read them, or did you just listen to them while you're at the gym?
My book case is empty. My Audible collection's deep, though. As a man thinketh, everything in your present day reality is a reflection of what you've already created in your thoughts.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like, dang.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and Think and Grow Rich, you don't even need to read the book.
It's the same. Yeah.
You don't need to read the book. The title tells you think and grow rich. Now, thinking is one of the hardest things to do. People don't realize this. When you start to think about something, here's an example. You lose your keys. Now, don't make fun of me to my face. You know where you put your keys because you're the one to put them there. You know, and it's up here somewhere. But when you start to think, the first thing you say to yourself is, oh, man, I lost my keys. Okay, if you say that, you lost your keys, right? And if you say, I can't remember where I put my keys, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to remember where you put your keys. But then when you try to reverse that, the first effort to that is like, let me think about this. Where did I put my keys? It starts to actually feel like energy has to be expended to do that. And it's harder actually to do that than run a mile.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why people
pull that memory
People
out.
give up. They give up so quick, and then they can't find their keys until they run into them. When if you just start thinking and lean into, I'm not giving up. I didn't lose my keys. I know where I put them. Where's the last place I was? And you start thinking and putting things together, you find them. But people give up, and then they say that out loud. I lost my keys. I can't remember where I put my keys. And then they're lost. You get what you think. You get what you say. It's a fact. You can believe it or not believe it. That ain't my problem. But yeah, so.
If you don't believe it, though, why is it so tough to believe?
It's not.
Yeah,
I just said it's tough to believe now, right?
I believe. I don't think it's so much about belief. I think, like you said, science.
But you just said, why is it so tough to believe? I don't know that it's tough to believe. I'm not going to agree to that.
100%. Yes. And
it's so crazy because, like, when I was little, I think my grandmother and my mom, they used to say these things like, hey, don't say that. Don't say you can't, this and that. And I was like, oh, Jesus,
roll your eyes.
Just your parents saying something, right? But it's really powerful. It really is powerful. And none of us are perfect with it. So I catch myself all the time. I don't say the word try. I'm going to try to do this. I'm trying to do that because try gives you an out to not be able to, not to accomplish it. You're trying. I say I am, or I'm doing this. This is what we're doing, right? This is the outcome we're going to have. Not we're going to try for this. Like, I just don't believe in operating that way.
What was the switch that hit for you? You think that changed that? Like, was there ever
results from it, man? Like, I would hear it.
Before that, but you got results from it, so something made you think I need to shift things. I need to try something different. Well, what was the pin on the timeline?
Well, I had mentorship, very good mentorship, and shout out to Richard Dolan. Rich he worked with Grant for a while in Grant's licensing thing, but prior to that, Rich is a money merchant banker, investor. Money guy, and he also is a performance coach, performance expert, worked with Mike Tyson, the Lakers, the Heat, LeBron James, many others. And I've spent 3 hours a week for 3 years with this guy. And he was talking all the time about causing and creating futures. And I'm just listening to him like, causing and creating futures, what does that mean? Causing and creating futures is basically creating an attraction model that pulls things into you that you want. But you cause and create. Cause and create means control. Okay, that means I have to take responsibility for my future. So I started putting these formulas together, and I started thinking to myself, okay, here's how it works. Intention is what you commit to. Like, what are my intentions? Okay, my intentions are my commitments. So I'm going to write those down. All right. Then what I intend to do is what I pay attention to. What you pay attention to becomes validated and into existence in your universe. right? And so I learned this from him, listening to him. He didn't explain it exactly this way, but I started interpreting this way, my own interpretation of it. And so what I realized is that if I don't create my intentions, or we don't create our own intentions, we are going to follow an intention, but it's not going to be ours if we don't do our own. And then, which most people, we were talking about earlier, most people are living in this life of it's just like a cycle, a loop of, I don't know, unfulfillment. It's because they're living the intentions of someone else. They're not causing and creating their own future. So I realized that. So I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not going to live off of someone else's determination. I'm going to be intentional. So I started being intentional. I started paying attention to different things aligned with the intention, and I started causing and creating my universe. See, this universe we all live in is a similar universe. However, like, you can build your own, because what you pay attention to is what matters. Now, the stuff that's going on in the Middle East right now, I don't even, like, if I wasn't watching the news and I didn't talk to anybody about it, it wouldn't even be happening in my world. But because I pay attention to it, it brings it into my universe. Mm-hmm. So I started realizing these things, and I'm like, well, if I have a choice of that and I've seen it happen, I want to cause and create the way I want to do it. So if I want to come up to a podcast, Zach reaches out to me, I could just ignore Zach, or I can be like, yeah, no, that's a cool thing. Let me enter that into my universe. I make a decision, intention, and now I'm here, right? But if I just delete the email, delete the text or whatever, it just stays out. I reject it. So we can build and cause and create our own universe. I started realizing that, seeing the power of it. And then I just decided that's just the way I want to live.
Sounds like the universe is a simulation.
Well, I mean, I guess you can call it whatever you want.
Codable and programmable.
Really? Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely programmable. You know, I mean, wouldn't you rather live a life where you designed it the way you wanted it, and then you actually created an attraction model to track what you want into it versus chasing things? It's a decision. So I decided to live that way. And all of a sudden things start flowing in my world. And then, you know, I talk about getting into film and TV, and all of a sudden I'm in Hollywood. This is an example. So I write my intentions down. I have no idea, like, sometimes how it comes to me. I believe God gives you these little hints. I start writing it down, and I'm like, well, how the hell am I ever going to be an actor in front of a camera? And I never went to acting school. I'm 40-some years old. I could say all these things, right? I don't do that. I don't question. I just write it down. All of a sudden, I end up in Hollywood for another reason. I'm sitting at a table. Somebody called me and said, hey, we have a spot at this fundraising dinner. Somebody paid $25,000 for the seat. They can't make it. It's open. You want to come? I'm like, hell yeah. So I sit down at this table, and this is an example of how this stuff starts to happen. To my left, there's a lady, and she's filling me in on who's who at the table. It's like 25, 30 people. Long table. And this guy sits to my right. He's cool. I'm talking to him. I don't know who he is. And his wife's sitting next to him. And this lady goes, that guy's a screenwriter or a writer for TV shows like Power and Empire, and he knows Dr. Dre and all these people and this and that. And he's like a really cool dude, nice. And I didn't know who the hell he was. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. And his wife's an actress. She's been in 2.5 Men, some other movies, this and that. I'm like, oh, it's cool. And then I hear this voice whilst this lady's talking to me, and I recognize this voice. And I'm like, look over, some older lady sitting at the end of the table. And she goes, you know that voice? And I'm like, no. Well, I mean, I know who it is, but I can't, put a name on it. She goes, that's the lady that does the voice of The Simpsons, Nancy Cartwright. And I was like, holy shit, man. I'm sitting at a table with these people. Like, how does this happen? Like, out of the blue. Like, I didn't plan for that necessarily, but I did by writing what I wanted to do down. So now I'm connected with all these people because I'm at this dinner. It's $25,000. I didn't have to pay. This is the amazing part about this stuff. I didn't have to pay my own money, $25,000, to sit at that table. How does that happen? How do you end up at a table that would cost $25,000 that I wasn't at that time in a position to put $25,000 into something like that, but I still ended up there sitting at the table with people that are recognizable and iconic, right? Now I have these connections in my network. So now it's just like the pieces are coming together, forming. I run into other Hollywood producers, executive producers, writers, all these things just start to appear in my life. And it's just proof that it works. Now, I don't know where it's all going to go, but I just know for a fact that if I keep being intentional and writing that down, it'll just shape itself.